Last year was a very hard year on the music industry for various reasons. One of the reasons was the passing of the rapper known as Mac Miller. And so when he passed away at the age of 26, the world was shocked, and for reasons that caused many to wonder what exactly was going on. So allow me to show you some of them to you. Number 7. His passing. Mac Miller passed away in September of 2018, and when the police observed his body, it appeared that he had passed away because of a substance overdose. Or at least that's what they claimed based on the evidence that they had. For he was found within his home in California, and according to reports, he had been gone for hours before anyone even found him in the room. Malcolm McCormick, known and adored by fans as Mac Miller, has tragically passed away at the age of 26, reads the statement. He was a bright light in this world for his family, friends, and fans. For while this was tragic, it isn't technically surprising. After all, Mac Miller has had a very public relationship with substances like this, and he's even saying about them in his tracks and trying to get better multiple times. I used to rap super openly about really dark. He told Vulture in a profile that published shortly after his passing. That's what I was expecting. That's what I was experiencing at the time. That's fine. That's good. That's life. It should be all the emotions. Sadly, it wasn't his emotion that got the best of him, clearly, because he passed rather suddenly and with no clear warning signs of what to come. The fact that he had substances at all proved that he wasn't in a good place mentally, and that can get anyone to do something like this. His passing was a true tragedy, and it was clear that he was going to be another star that passed all too soon under the worst of circumstances. You could say that he's a cautionary tale, one that should be noted in various ways to be reminded of what happens when you don't treat yourself right, or if you don't have a good support system. Mac Miller didn't really have that, or at the very least didn't have that anymore. And yet, despite the rather clear-cut nature of things, there are certain aspects of Mac Miller's passing that honestly doesn't even add up. Number 6. The evidence. First off, let's talk about how he passed. As noted, he passed from an overdose, but that's only the basic version of what really happened here. It's actually a lot more complicated than that. For after the autopsy report on him, it was found that he had 3 different things in his system: alcohol, and fentanyl. I don't think I have to say that this is a really bad combination, but this is really a bad combination. As if to prove that, this combination was the thing that caused Mac Miller's system to shut down. So technically, it actually was an accidental overdose that caused Mac Miller's demise. Does that feel right? As noted before, Mac Miller has had a long and hard relationship with illegal substances and substance abuse. But given that all that he's gone through, you'd think that he'd know that mixing his stuff would be potentially lethal. Heck, even regular medicine and alcohol is a deadly mix at times. And now you're adding illegal substances to the mix? You have to wonder, what exactly was he thinking to try and do that combination? It just doesn't add up, because he's Mac Miller, and Mac Miller was a really smart guy, and yet this was just seems to be just pure dumb. Yet ironically, it's not even the weirdest part that came into this investigation, because naturally they had to figure out how and where he got some of these substances, especially the and fentanyl, which are both easy and not so easy to get. So after his passing, the police searched the entire house that Mac Miller lived in, and they found nothing. No, seriously, they didn't find a single trace of any other illegal drugs, alcohol, or any other substances. The only proof that was even there was because there was a little bit of white powder found near him, and obviously it was proven that it was in his system. And that's where things get really weird, because if Mac Miller had been doing this for a long time, he would have had a lot of substances with him on hand, especially in his own home where he was doing these actions, and yet there wasn't a single trace outside of the immediate area. What's more, it looked like the place had actually been cleaned before the police arrived to get Mac Miller. Number 5. Other people. The key part of this whole situation that it was obvious Mac Miller didn't call the police for himself and try to get his life saved, for he was in no state of just doing that. And so that means someone else called 911 in order to get the police to the house. But the question is, who? No one really knows, not even the police. And that's even more strange when you consider how advanced the call detection is nowadays. But let's ignore the who and focus on the why. Mainly, why they cleaned the house before calling the police? The answer appears to be quite simple. They were the ones providing Mac Miller with the substances that led to his passing. So by that token, if they were caught in the house with them, or even if they're trying to save Mac Miller's life, that would mean they would get arrested for possession and distribution and a host of other things that wouldn't be so nice. So no doubt would lead to their untimely arrest and sentencing in prison on multiple counts. But let's dive a bit deeper into this. The whole house was cleaned according to police. So how long did it take to do such an act? If it was just one person, that could take a lot of time, depending on how wild things got in there before Mac Miller got unwell. If there were more than one person, it would likely have taken a little while to sink in before the group realized something was seriously wrong. And even if then, it would have taken them some time to search the place to make sure that there were no connections to them. All this time they took to cover their own skins proves just how little they cared about Mac Miller's life. Because if they immediately called the police, they might have been a chance. No matter how slight there is to save a life, an overdose can be counteracted if acted upon quickly enough. The time they took to clean that house to save themselves quite literally might have doomed Mac Miller. And if they were caught in that act, they likely would have been charged with an involuntary manslaughter. And while it's impossible to know who exactly was there and why they were there outside of partying with Mac Miller, it's clear that something fishy went on in that place leading up to his passing. Number 4. Reasons for overdose. Well, let's focus on something else for a minute. Let's focus on the reasoning behind the potential party favors that took Mac Miller's life. He struggled with substance abuse a lot in the past, but why did he fail now? What drove him to be in such a dark place that he needed to get those feels within him, you know? Well, sadly and simply put, the answer to that question might be Ariana Grande. This is not meant to disparage the beloved singer, but rather to bring clarity to what happened to Mac Miller near the end of his life. Grande is a very popular singer, and in 2018 was a whirlwind year for her in many aspects. But it all really just started in May when she broke up with Mac Miller after a very long 2-year relationship. But it was the reasoning behind the relationship and the aftermath that really shattered Mac Miller. For he was called an abuser by Grande, and when fans stuck up for him, Grande shot them down one by one, noting that she had every right to get out of that harmful relationship. To make matters worse, mere weeks after breaking up with Miller, she met and started dating Pete Davidson of SNL. And a few weeks after that, they decided to go and get engaged. This kind of sequence of events could put a mental strain on anyone, and it was clear that after the breakup, Mac Miller still had feelings for Grande, and that really didn't change as the year went on. Grande and Davidson were in the news a lot because of their whirlwind romance and engagement, and the more they were in the news, the more that Mac Miller apparently declined. He did do some things that were positive, but there's no doubt that Grande unintentionally was the catalyst for his fall down. Again, this is not to blame Grande. She did indeed have every right to leave that relationship with Miller, and it was clear that after his passing, she did regret it in some part. But even referring to him as an angel in her hit song Thank You Next, which was literally about the exes of her life. Either way though, that relationship and the lack thereof was a major driving force for Miller, and in the end, it just was too much for him to overcome, I guess. Number 3. Music video. One of the other things about the events leading up to Mac Miller's passing is that of the song and music video Self-Care. This was a song about life and death and how you have to bury yourself in your own feelings sometimes in order to get better. And some of the lines that he told were a bit foreshadowing of what would be his own demise. I've been losing my mind, yeah. Get the out of my way. Must be high to play. Must be nice above the lights. What a lovely life I made. Yeah. I know that feeling like it's my family tree. Yeah. The Mercedes drove me crazy. I was speeding. Somebody save me from myself. Yeah. Somebody save me from myself could be construed as a cry for help in the worst of ways, but it was hard to tell if that was the true intention given that it's a song. But the symbolism of him being in a coffin for most of the music video, smoking a cigarette no less, is very gripping, especially since this was his last music video before his passing. So the irony is not lost on those who were fans of him. Now, some might call it coincidental, but there's no doubt that Self-Care was a song about what he had felt he'd been going through in his life. And even though he does rise from the ground at the end, that could all be the symbolic meaning of new life, that he would rather get his passing. So that begs the question of, was he kind of hoping to pass away? Number 2, the Trump connection. A very small connection I may grant you, but Mac Miller and Donald Trump did know each other in a loosely way. Mainly, Mac Miller made a song called Donald Trump, named after the infamous billionaire and the current president of the United States. The song was a big hit and one of the first big hits that Mac Miller had. Trump early on was very happy about his song and its success, but then he went into his own trademark Twitter tirade, saying that he would sue Mac Miller. And then not long after, he went back to Mac Miller's side and told him to keep on cranking out hits. But ever since his passing, Trump hasn't said one word about Mac Miller. And that has struck many people as odd. Whether he liked him or hate him, Trump always says that he was always on his mind. So why did he say anything about this? No one knows except for Trump. Number 1, his legacy. Whether you were a fan or you weren't, Mac Miller was a big part of the rap world for many years, especially during the current decade. He's had many single hits and tracks, and he's had a very popular relationship that brought a lot of attention his way. And he's had a fan base that, after his passing, played even more of a role in his music than ever. In the end, though, the life and career of Mac Miller will definitely be defined as what if? What if he had gotten help and continued on? What if he had moved on fully from Ariana Grande and worked on getting his life being more stable-footed? What if he made more music? Sadly, these are what ifs that will never be answered. So there you have it, some clarity as to what is so odd about the passing of Mac Miller. What do you think of this examination of evidence? Also, does it make sense of what happened or what may have happened to Mac Miller? Let me know in the comments down below. Be sure to subscribe and I'll see you next time on King Trending.
Hey, just a reminder that we're changing up the giveaways. From now on, we're offering the Galaxy Note 9, the one that comes with the exclusive Fortnite skin, the new iPhone X Max, which we'll pre-order for you, and the new Apple Watch Series 4, which we'll also pre-order for you. The winner gets to decide between these three. Make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, drop a like, and comment the hidden message in the video for a chance to win. You got nothing to lose. Go for it.